and how the constitution is to specify who has the power to make decisions in society. It decide how the government will be constituted, which I have already done with you. Then my part was third part was yeah. So the third function of a constitution is to set up some limits on what a government can impose on its citizen. These limits are fundamental in sense that the government may never trespasses them. Government cannot government cannot dictate you. Government used to make some rules and regulation according to the democratic setup. We have to abide by the rules, and the government is running in rule and regulation. For example, after 6 years, there is some general election. After 6 years, there is some general election. After general election, the party who is in majority, it has to come. So all we are under the rules. Then aspiration from the goals and societies, right? Here I left you. Aspiration means there should be no discrimination. There should be no discrimination between the people. Most of the other constitutions limited themselves largely to allocating this decision making power and setting some limits to the government power, but many in 20th century constitution, of which Indian constitution is finest example, also provide enabling framework for the government to do certain positive things. So I left you here only. Then my fourth function is here. I gave you three functions, and the fourth function of the constitution is to enable the government to fulfill the aspirating of society and create condition for the just society. It's a fourth function. Third function I have already discussed with you. It's a fourth function. what हिंदी में आई एम टेलिंग को इन द व्हाट द फोर्थ फंक्शन इज टू गवर्नमेंट को फुलफिल करना है आपकी इच्छाओं को. whatever whatever the whatever the answers is that, suppose you want good hospital, it is acceptable that one should have good hospitals, one should have good schools, one should have good communication, one should have good roads and other transport facilities. So education system should be good, health system should be good, employment should be good. So fourth function of constitution to enable the government to fulfill the aspirations means, I told you earlier, इच्छाएं. लोगों की इच्छाओं को ध्यान में रखते हुए गवर्नमेंट को क्या करना चाहिए, काम करना चाहिए of a society, और क्रिएट करना चाहिए कि ऐसे सोसाइटी को, इट शुड क्रिएट सम सच अ सोसाइटी दैट शुड बी द जस्ट सोसाइटी, जो न्यायपूर्वक हो, न्याय पे चले, right? It should not be the rule of majority, and it should not be marginalize the minority, or the government should not always pumping the minority to marginalize the majority, right? So one should be in rule and regulation, and everything should be under the law. So the fourth function of a constitution is to enable the government to fulfill the aspiration of society and create condition of a just society. So it could be a question for you on this particular topic and discuss this. We have already done three aspirations, three conditions of a democratic setup, and this is what the fourth function of the a democratic setup. Then I gave you one, I gave you one, homework. The homework was explain enabling provisions of the constitution. Explain provisions for the enabling provisions for the constitution. Constitution are not only rules and regulations. Constitution आपको enable क्या करता है, क्या देता है? ये रूल एंड रेगुलेशन ही नहीं देता आपको. It's not, it's okay, it's a basic fact is that it should be give you just society, equal society, without discrimination. Constitution should do that every individual should be satisfied from the government, and the rights of fundamental right should be equal to everyone, right? So constitution are not only rules and regulation controlling the powers of the government, they also give powers to the government for pursuing collective good for the society. I said collective good of the society. The good, society should do the best. We make the society. Basically, how the society is there. We make the society, and when we are going to make the society, we should think that the society is not for every every one individual. This society is for the collective for everyone. We call it Indian society, and Indian society is a democratic society, right? So, constitution are not only rules and regulation controlling the powers of the government; they also give powers to the government for pursuing collective good for the society. Constitution of South Africa assigns many responsibility to the government. Now I'm comparing. Earlier, in South Africa, it was a Botha government, Botha, Botha government. It was a white government, minority government, and it was controlling the majority of the black majority. And in South Africa, it was apartheid. भेदभाव की राजनीति थी वहां पे. भेदभाव. And Nelson Mandela and many other people, Winnie Mandela, Nelson Mandela, many other group, even the white people also, they fought for the independence of South African people. So when South Africa people got the independence from white minority government, so what they did, Constitution of South Africa assigns many responsibilities to the government. It wants the government to take measures to promote conservation of nature. सबसे पहले हमें अपने नेचर को कंजर्व करना है. Conservation of nature. If you are destroying the nature, nature will destroy you. Let me tell you one thing very frankly. Don't try to destroy the nature. Nature has lot of patience, but when nature gives up the patience, जब उसका धैर्य जवाब दे जाता है ना, then we are nowhere. हमें कोई रास्ता नहीं मिलता. So it wants the government to take measures to promote conservation of nature, make efforts to protect persons or groups subjected to unfair discriminations. There should be no discriminations. South African government says there should be no discrimination and provide that the government must progressively ensure adequate housing to all, healthcare, etc., etc. Here it is in the box. It's a government duty to provide, South African government duty to provide the healthcare facilities, every healthcare facility to the people of South Africa, to the people of South Africa, healthcare facility. And and provides government must progressively ensure adequate housing. सबको घर मिले. It's your fundamental right to ask the basic needs from the government if you are a citizen of South Africa. You can ask the employment, you can ask the shelter, you can ask the bread and butter, you can ask housing, shelter, whatever it is. Basic things, roti, kapra, and makan. You can ask it from the government. And government has to has to provide you by every mean. They have to provide. They have to provide you. Even healthcare facilities, the best healthcare facilities. In the case of Indonesia also, the government enjoyed to establish and conduct national education system. The Indonesian constitution ensures that the poor and destitute children will be looked after the government. That's what do you mean by destitute children? Now I'm talking about, not taking you about towards Indonesia. Earlier we were in South Africa. Now we are talking about Indonesia. Taking to Indonesian government, now taking Indonesia to you. Now the Indonesian government also says that destitute children. What do you mean by destitute children? Children, yatim बच्चे. ये जो जिनके parents नहीं होते हैं ना, उनको we call it destitute. They they will be taken care of by the government. Education facility, housing facility, food facility, shelter facility, clothing facility, everything should be provided by the government because they don't have the parents. Look how much it is. I don't know how much they are good to provide these things to the people, but I know in South Africa they are very much particular. I don't know about Indonesian government, but they are doing their best to provide the help to the destitute children. The Indonesian constitution ensures that the poor and the destitute children will be looked after by the government. So this is enabling of the constitution, enabling provisions of the constitution. First, I talked about the South African government. Then we have the example of Indonesia. Then fundamental identity of a people. Fundamental identity. What's your identity? If I ask you, maybe whatever your name, what is your identity? Your first identity is that you are an Indian citizen. आप भारत के नागरिक हो. It is your first identity, and if you make a passport, it is written over there, Government of India, right? So, identity. Finally, and perhaps even most importantly, Constitution expresses the fundamental identity of a people. Fundamental identity. This means that the people as a collective entity come into a being only through a basic constitution. हम सब एक constitution से बंधे हुए हैं. We have our constitution, right? हमारे अपना एक constitution है. उस constitution के साथ हम बंधे हुए हैं. And that constitution is the Indian constitution. I told you just that in constitution is your identity. You are Indian and you have an Indian constitution. So express the and importantly constitution expresses the fundamental identity of the people. This means the people as a collective entity come into being from through a basic constitution. It is by agreeing to a basic set of norms about how one should be governed. How a person is governed. A person is governed by the rule and regulation given in the constitution through a party. Now, in India at present, we had a basic democratic party, whatever BJP is a democratic party. Earlier, it was a Congress party. Earlier, it is a Janta Dal party. Who whatsoever party, gives you a basic rules and regulations through the constitution, right? One has many sets of identities that exist prior to the constitution. और constitution से पहले कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन से पहले भी आपकी एक आइडेंटिटी है. योर पेरेंट्स आइडेंटिटी, your other we will discuss about it. One has some sets of identities that exist prior to your constitution, but by the agreeing of certain basic norms and principle, one constitution, one basic political identity. सबसे पहले आपका है पॉलिटिकल आइडेंटिटी. इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन पॉलिटिकल आइडेंटिटी. Samvidhan, Constitution, Samvidhan. Right? One constitution, one's basic political identity. Second, constitutional norms and the overarching framework which one pursues individual aspiration, goals and freedom. आपकी दूसरी आइडेंटिटी क्या है कि how much a country gives you freedom, what type of goal you are having, are you able to fulfill your goal in your society. That is second hand. It means your fundamental rights. हमारी कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन आपको इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, साउथ अफ्रीकन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, इंडोनेशियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, अमेरिकन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, many constitutions who are give the democratic setup, they gave you some type of fundamental rights. What are the fundamental rights basically? Why the fundamental rights? Fundamental rights are basically to enhance your personality. आपको हर तरह की सुख सुविधाएं दी जाती है, so that you can be you can say that I am free, a free citizen of free country, a democratic country. So enhancing you the fundamental right is there. Second, constitution norms are overarching framework within which one pursues individual aspiration, goals, and freedom. The Constitution sets authoritative constraints upon that one may or may not do. You know, it's a very important. Let me tell you one thing. This book is not so easy. You have to read it. I'm defining you sentence after sentence, but you should go through after my lecture that what you have done it right. सबसे पहले you have got the identity. Indian constitution is your identity. Indian individual is your identity, right? Then political identity. Then it it gives you some type of fundamental values. This is your identity. Fundamental values is your identity, and the constitution says the rule and regulation of a country said you can do this and you cannot do this, right? So do it or not and not do it. You cannot so for example you have a fundamental right for free expression. Free expression doesn't mean that you abuse somebody, you abuse someone. You cannot abuse someone. Free, yes, you can explain. For example, we have there are two type of parties. One is ruling party and secondly is opposition party. Opposition party always oppose the government, so that it should check whatever it is doing. It should not be the ruling party, should not be autocratic party. It always checks it, right? So that is there, that you can do it or you cannot do it. Then you have got the constraints upon one may or may not do. It defines the fundamental values that we may not trespass. Hum kisi, for example, we cannot go into others' house and say that, look, this is my house. You cannot trespass the law. आप किसी भी कानून को तोड़ के नहीं आगे जा सकते, right? So trespasses, trespass is not allowed. So the constitution also gives one moral identity. Yeah, I forget to share the screen with you. It is along with it. It's page number 9. It's always page number 9. Now, we may not trespasses a rule and regulation. It may be the case that may basic political and moral values are how shared across different constitution and tradition. Your moral values are there. Your traditions are there. You can share it, but you cannot force it. For example, we don't have any national language. We have official language. Hindi could be your official language. Yes, but it's not a national language. Every country is having its own language. Every developed country is having its own language. But India is not having any language. I told you earlier that we are having more than 250 languages and 2,500 dialects. Right? So we don't force anything. But some rules and regulations are there. We have to abide by those rules and regulations. If one looks at constitution around the world, they differ in many respects. Yeah. If one looks at constitution around the world, they differ in many respects. In the form of government, they enjoin in many procedure details, but they also share a good deal. Most modern constitutions create a form of government that are democratic in some respect. Most claim to protect certain basic rights. What do you mean by this? Means if a government is a democratic government, it has to give you, I'm sorry, it has to give you fundamental rights and it has to protect your fundamental rights. Look, we have got the 6 fundamental rights. These rights are given by the constitution. हमारे संविधान ने आपको कुछ मौलिक अधिकार दिए हैं. So the constitution is having some certain rules and regulations which are abiding, which they force you to abide by these rules and regulations. Right? आप constitution को deny नहीं कर सकते. और इन बेसिक राइट्स को, आपके जो फंडामेंटल राइट्स हैं, बेसिक राइट्स को कौन प्रोटेक्ट करता है? योर रूल एंड रेगुलेशन. योर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन प्रोटेक्ट्स यू. But constitutions are different in the way they embody conception of national identity. Most nations are an amalgamation of a complex set of historical traditions. They weave together the diverse group. They reside within the nation in different ways. For example, German identity was constituted by the being authentically German. The constitution gave expression to this identity. You know, in India, we have got many groups. One identity is there that you are being Indian. But second identity is that which language you are, which language you belongs to, which tradition you belongs to, which customs you belongs to. You know, we have got 29 states, 7 union territories, 2,500 dialects, 1,500 languages. So we have a vast set of set of our introduction, our identities. But main identity is that we are Indian. And after that, these are the A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. These are all other identities. All other sections are there. The Indian Constitution, on the other hand, does not make ethnic identity a criterion of citizenship. हमारा आइडेंटिटी तो है कि मैं कि आई स्पीक बंगाली, आई स्पीक मराठी, एक छोटी मोटी आइडेंटिटी है. बट मेन आइडेंटिटी नहीं, इट्स नॉट अ मेन आइडेंटिटी. But in other countries, they have got their main identity also. Right? Different nations embody different conception of what the relationship between, here it is, between the different regions of a nation and the central government should be. This relationship constitutes the national identity of a country. It means that you have got a national identity, and you have two other identities, A and B other identities also. Right? Your language and your state. Your state has also its own identity. You accept it or not accept it. Your state, your language is also having your own identity. So, but main basic identity is you are Indian. That is the main identity. So, here is the check your progress. Is check your progress. Here are some provisions of Indian and other constitutions. For each of these, write the function that provisions of performs. You have to fill up. For example, first is filled up over by the book itself. The government cannot order any citizen to allow or not to follow any religion. Limitation on the power of the government. गवर्नमेंट किसी को फोर्स नहीं कर सकती कि भैया कि तो आप इस रिलीजन को फॉलो करो. इंडियन डेमोक्रेटिक कंट्री, इंडिया इज अ डेमोक्रेटिक कंट्री. India has no religion. India is a secular country. It doesn't say that you follow this religion. It depends on you which religion you are following. Religion, your language is your basic individual things. Government has no power to force you to follow some religion. No, because India is a secular country. Next point is, the government must try to reduce inequalities in income and wealth to to support the sense of socialism. आप यहाँ पे blank इसमें लिखिए, blank में लिखिए, to support the sense of socialism. First क्या है, the government must try to reduce inequality in income and wealth. Inequality को खत्म करना है. Many people are, billionaires. Many people, they don't have one meal per day. Lot of inequalities there. So government has to reduce the inequality in between the citizens. So which part of government reduce the inequality? Socialism is a part of the government which reduce the inequality. So, bacho, you have to write down to support the sense of socialism. First, it was limitation on the part of the government. It cannot support any particular religion because India is a secular country. Secularism means that every religion is equal one, equal footage. Second is to separate the sense sorry, I'm sorry. First was limitation on the power of government. Next is to support the sense of socialism. Third was the president has the power of appoint the prime minister. Third point, first point, second point, third point. The third point is it is the page number 10. You have to fill up yourself. I'm helping you to fill it up. The president has the power to appoint the prime minister, constitutional power of the head of the state. Who is the head of the government? Prime minister is the head of the government. Who is the head of the state? The president is the head of the state. President. So, third point is the president has the power to appoint the prime minister. So, you have to set write down in the blank part constitutional power of the head of the state. ये कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ने हेड ऑफ द स्टेट को मींस द प्रेसिडेंट को पास किया है. कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन गिव्स द पावर टू द प्रेसिडेंट that look, whosoever is the majority party and the head of the majority party is going to the prime minister. Earlier during the Congress party, it was prime minister was the head of the prime minister, Mrs. Indira Gandhi was the prime minister. Right? Then many other prime ministers came. Now government says, the president says, the main power is the head of the head of the government. Government goes to BJP, and the leader of the BJP is Mr. Narendra Modi. So Narendra Modi is the prime minister of this Indian country. So president ने constitution के through prime minister को ये power दिया कि look, you are the head of the government, as I am giving you the power to head of the government. So I have defined with these 1, 2, 3, third point, fourth or fifth point, you have to do yourself. Tomorrow I will discuss on the same topic. Right? Till then, take care and have a good time. Thank you.